2021 was a bad year around the world, but for Afghanistan, it was by far one of the worst years in history. Here's a recap of the major events that took place in Afghanistan during 2021. Let's start with some bad events first, because there were no good events that took place in Afghanistan in 2021, or 2020, or 2019, and 18, 17, 16. I think you get the point. 2021 started really bad in Afghanistan, and then it was a question of how much worse it was going to get. And you're about to find out in this video. So here's a list. Yak. By spring of 2021, insurgency attacks and suicide attacks by the Taliban and ISIS against civilians and Afghan security forces had reached a new all-time high. A bomb would go off somewhere every day, even inside the mosques. Nobody was safe anywhere from the Taliban, not even in the house of God. Do. While the rest of the world was still counting COVID cases, people in Afghanistan stopped caring about COVID-19. And how could anyone in Afghanistan really worry about COVID-19 when they are dealing with a far deadlier virus called the Taliban? Nonetheless, COVID-19 was still killing the old and the weak in Afghanistan, but who was counting? And the health service in Afghanistan is probably ranked number one worst healthcare, that is. Say, Joe Biden wakes up from his sleep and makes an official announcement that he will order all US troops to withdraw from Afghanistan by no later than September 11th, 2021. In other words, America's giving up the fight against the Taliban and ISIS after 20 long years. Char. Crime rate in Afghanistan, such as robbery, abduction, violence, and murder would reach a new peak right across the country in 2021. I mean, people were afraid to answer their phones in public, not because of some scammers calling from India or Nigeria, but because somebody might be following them and then stab them and beat them up to death just to steal that phone. Punch. Corruption, fraud, bribery amongst government officials had reached a level beyond repair. Any Afghan officials that spoke against it or tried to stop it would be silenced forever. And by that, I mean get themselves killed. Nothing would get accomplished without a form of bribery. Not even getting your passport to escape the country and the madness. Shush. The Taliban were gaining more grounds and taking more and more areas all around Afghanistan. The US had stopped their military and air support to the Afghan army. In other words, sorry Afghanistan, but we do what we want, and we have made a secret deal with the Taliban the year before. And the mainstream media didn't pay any attention to Afghanistan because the news was all about pushing to get your COVID vaccines, because the vaccines don't even protect you from the virus. But the corporations are making lots of money, and that's the most important thing. Oh wait, the media wouldn't talk about corporations making a lot of money because the corporation own most of the mainstream media. They just keep on telling everyone to take your first vaccine, your second, then there will be a booster, and then there will be another booster, and then there will be a pill, and then there will be another vaccine that has the first and the second and the third and all the booster shots all in one. Anyways, back to Afghanistan. This video is not about your COVID frustrations. Aft. Unemployment rate in Afghanistan was keep going up. Foreign contractors continued to leave. People were losing their jobs every day, and the anger at the Afghan government was heating up. Yet the Afghan people still had no idea that the boogeymen were on their way, and the boogeymen are known to turn dreams into nightmares. Ashed. The US secretly shuts down its military base at Bagram Airport without telling the Afghan government. This military base had costed billions of dollars to build it and have it equipped and run it. The US military shipped some of this stuff back to US and then decided to destroy everything else that they had built because that's what the contractors like to see. build it, destroy it, and then get paid and restart the cycle all over again. And that's how the big dogs turn their millions into billions and their billions into trillions, while poor people around the world run in circles every day struggling to find a way to provide for their helpless families. No. By midsummer 2021, the Taliban had taken about 80% control of Afghanistan, and the mainstream media was still stuck on pushing the second dose of vaccine into everyone's arms, and telling the world if you get your vaccines, the lockdown will come to an end. And the lockdown did finally come to an end, but just for a few short weeks. I really need to stop talking about COVID-19. And that's what everyone around the world telling themselves every day. COVID-19 started to drive everyone a little crazy. Okay, back to Afghanistan. By late summer, the country was in deep trouble because the Taliban, with the help of Pakistan ISIs, was sweeping from every direction and surrounding the capital, Kabul. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani calls President Joe Biden and asks for help. Biden tells him, "You're on your own, brother." Damn you, Biden. So Ashraf Ghani realizes he doesn't have a chance to fight the Taliban now that he's completely surrounded. So he packs light and only takes a helicopter full of cash and escapes. Everyone says he took a lot of money with him, but did it make sense to leave it for the Taliban to take them all? And if you said yes, then you really don't know the Taliban yet. August 15th, 2021. Kabul Falls and the Taliban forces take over the capital too. They take down Afghanistan's national flag and raise their own white flag. The Taliban also freed thousands of their own Taliban prisoners, as well as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other garbage. Afghanistan's neighboring countries close all their borders. All local and international flights become grounded. The people of Afghanistan start to panic and run for their lives like it's a bad nightmare, except the nightmare was real, and the boogeyman had finally arrived. And they were walking on every street of Kabul, and the fear was sending chills through everyone's veins, and the whole country was terrified. And the mainstream media finally decided to take a break from talking about COVID-19 and start showing horrifying images of Afghanistan and the chaos of Kabul Airport. The world was suddenly shocked. They finally see the truth behind the walls of lies. The evacuations of Kabul spins out of control. Floods of Afghans and foreigners are stuck inside Afghanistan, and they are desperately looking for a way to be rescued from the Taliban. Afghanistan's news take over global news stations, and social media goes nuts, especially when people start falling from the US planes, followed by the ISIS suicide attack at Kabul Airport, which killed over 200 people and wounded countless more. The world start blaming the US and Joe Biden for the disaster at Kabul Airport. And Biden says, "Yes, America messed up, but that's what we do. We like war. It's good for our economy." But just how are they going to clean this mess this time? Because some of the scars are permanent and will never heal. Beast. Panjshir becomes the only province in Afghanistan to resist the Taliban, led by Ahmad Massoud. Bistiak. American drone strikes the ISIS members that were responsible for the suicide attack that killed over 200 people at Kabul Airport. Then the US officials go on media and brag about how they quickly avenged the death of 13 servicemen that were killed in the attack at Kabul Airport. Except that was another lie. The drone attack had not killed any terrorists. The drone attack had killed 2 aid workers as well as 8 innocent Afghan children. Bisidu. On August 31st, 2021, Major General Chris Donahue becomes the last US soldier to leave Afghanistan after 20 years of pointless war. I wonder what was going on through his head at that very last moment before he got on that plane. I bet one of the things was him praying so the plane doesn't get shot down by the Taliban or ISIS. Beast to say, America disappoints again. America fails to complete its evacuation by the 31st deadline, leaving behind many of its own citizens, friends, allies, and Afghans that had helped them in the last 20 years. Beast to jar. The Taliban take full control of Kabul Airport from the Americans. Some of the Taliban fighters wear American Special Forces uniform. Go figure, and they mocked Americans. And some of these images go viral. These Talib guys are good. Nah, they can't be that good. They're mostly stupid. Maybe it's the Pakistani ISI behind all of this, because they know how to piss off Americans.
The Pakistani army, ISI, trained Al-Qaeda and all these groups to fight in Afghanistan. There were always links between Pakistan. There had to be links because they trained them.
You see? And America is too afraid to do anything about it. And if you wonder why, well, maybe because Pakistan has nukes, and China and Pakistan are big allies. Beast to punch. With Americans out of Afghanistan, the Taliban seized about $85 billion worth of modern military equipment. Or did the Americans just hand everything to the Taliban? What do you think really happened? Sad thing is, people like you and I never really find out the truth. They tell us what we want to hear, but that doesn't mean it's the real truth. Beast to shash. Soon after the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, millions of people would lose their jobs, especially the women of Afghanistan. School for girls shut down too. The Taliban don't like the women of Afghanistan to get an education or work. They prefer them to stay at home, cook, clean, and look after the children. Let's think about this for a moment. What happens if the man in the house is unable to provide for his family? Or what happens if there's no man in a household to work at all because he was killed during the war? The Taliban don't have the answers to anything. They would tell these women and everybody else to pray and ask God for help. Beast to haft. Thousands of people across the country start protesting against the Taliban and their policies. And what do the Taliban do? Well, the Taliban do what they are best known for. The Taliban start shooting and killing many protesters to silence them. But yet, some brave men of Afghanistan still stand up against these radicals. Beast to hashed. The chief of Pakistani ISI visits Kabul and the Taliban. Nobody's surprised about that. He probably wanted to personally congratulate the Taliban for their victory over the Americans and the Afghan corrupt army. And by the way, the Taliban victory is really Pakistan's victory. Beast to know. The province of Panjshir that was battling the Taliban for a few weeks sadly falls to the Taliban too. And did the Taliban get any help from the Pakistani ISI? Of course they did, because this is the first time the Taliban have taken full control of Afghanistan. They were never able to achieve this goal back in 1996 to 2001. C. Ahmad Massoud, a man who has been fighting for the freedom and the rights of all Afghan people, asks the world not to recognize the Taliban as the legitimate government of Afghanistan because the Taliban haven't changed, even though they claim that they have changed. Siviak. The US freezes $9.5 billion of Afghanistan's asset from the Taliban. So the US gives Afghanistan to the Taliban, and then they decide to freeze the country's assets. What is really going on? And what kind of game is this? And they were going to give that money to the Taliban eventually. So why even bother delay it and make the people of Afghanistan suffer? See what do. The Taliban capture many former Afghan commandos and officials and execute them. And out of the fear of the Taliban, Many civilians from the province of Panjshir and other northern regions of Afghanistan flee into the mountains and neighboring countries. Several suicide explosions go off in mosques across the country, killing scores of people each time. And mosque attacks have become very common, but that still doesn't stop people from keep running to the mosques to pray. I guess some of these people are really not afraid to die. The Hazara ethnic groups and the Shia Muslims become the center target of ISIS. Or is it the Taliban that are killing these minority groups, but blaming it on the ISIS? And what does it matter if it is ISIS or the Taliban? The reality is that there is discrimination against these minority groups in Afghanistan, and it will not stop. The Taliban massacred thousands and thousands of Hazara people the last time they were in power, and they never stopped. And if you believe the Taliban have changed, you need to open your eyes. CHR. The US and United Nations, as well as other international countries, put a list of conditions for the Taliban to obey if they want to be officially recognized and receive international support. But the Taliban didn't bother accepting any of these conditions, a sign that they have not changed. Panj. After a few weeks of Kabul takeover by the radicals and the extremists, the Taliban announced their interim government, and guess what? It's the same old clowns as before. No women, and not anyone from the previous Afghan government. They also announced some of their new policies, and really no different than before. So Sharia law stays Sharia law. And their version of Sharia law means no rights for the women of Afghanistan. Siwishash. Ashraf Ghani, former president of Afghanistan, releases a video explaining why he had to flee and abandon his country and his people. He basically states that the US made a secret deal with the Taliban, and if the Taliban caught him, they would have killed him, and there was no chance of fighting the Taliban. He added that if he resisted the Taliban, Kabul would have become a bloodbath, but Afghans still won't forgive him for what he has done. Oh, and he also said that he didn't take any money. That's a big lie. Siwaft. By September and October 2021, more than half of Afghanistan's population face starvation, and the Taliban walk around the streets, scratching their heads, not knowing what to do and where to begin. Siwasht. Internal conflicts between the different Taliban groups spark, and this isn't something that will go away. It's likely to get worse and turn into a civil war. Before taking over Afghanistan, these radicals, these extremists, these militants, these Talibans, these terrorists, they had one common enemy: the US and the US-backed Afghan army. But now, there's nobody to fight or go jihad on them except each other. See we know. As the year 2021 comes to an end, no country formally recognizes the Taliban as the official government of Afghanistan. But hey, who knows, maybe Pakistan, China, Saudi Arabia, they're already thinking about it. Chill. Afghanistan yet again faces the biggest humanitarian disaster in the world, thanks to the Taliban. The Taliban add another dark chapter to Afghanistan's history, and 2021 ends as one of the worst years for the people of Afghanistan. The new year of 2022, unfortunately, doesn't look so bright for the people of Afghanistan either, as millions of poor Afghans have been displaced and lost their means of providing for their families and have nothing to eat, and there's no one to save them. During the harsh winter months, it's likely that many people in Afghanistan will die from hunger. The Americans made a deal with the devil, and now the people of Afghanistan are paying the price for it. But perhaps one day America will face the consequences too, and so will Pakistan and any other countries that have supported and created the Taliban to be where they are now. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you think about the year of 2021 for Afghanistan. Tell us how you feel about the way Joe Biden decided to withdraw American troops from Afghanistan and leaving many people behind. Let us know how you feel about the Taliban and the future of Afghanistan. Please leave your comments below. We love to hear from you. Thank you again for watching. تشکر دوستای عزیز و هموطنان عزیز. Please support our YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please like and share our videos. We appreciate your support. Please follow us on other social media at Afghan Ravens. Afghan Ravens. We are messengers of hope, freedom, and peace. We are messengers of hope, freedom, and peace.